The poster of this story thought he married a great person in his wife. Until one instance after an 8-week-long business trip she took, she started acting strangely. Then he found out that she actually took an STD test when she came back. Now let's read the full story. Original post. My 28 male, wife, 26 female, is a great person and we have always gotten along. We have been married for almost 2 years and we've been together for 4.5 years. We are in a monogamous relationship and have both had several partners prior to our relationship. Every year, my wife goes on a long business trip, typically about 2 months. During this time, communication over phone and email can be difficult, contingent upon the technological issues where she works. She really enjoys her work during the business trips and usually comes home feeling fulfilled and excited about life. Normally when she comes home, she takes a day or two to rest and overcome the jet lag, 28-hour travel time, and 21-hour time difference. The following days, we tend to spend lots of time together, be intimate, dates, cuddling, catching up and so on, because she's been gone so long. This year, she came home as her same excited self after having had a great trip. In fact, she seemed so excited that she wanted to work on some projects, but would need to go get some material from the store. About 3 hours after picking her up from the airport, she says she wants to go shopping for her craft project, and that she will likely spend several hours out shopping. She really emphasizes how much time she'll need to go shopping, many hours. I think this is a little weird considering that she just came back from a 28-hour flight, hasn't slept, and she's usually not the type to spend more than an hour or two shopping. But whatever, it's fine. About 5 hours later, she comes home with a single bag of craft material. I register this as strange, but don't really think about it. I chalk it up to taking a lot of time to pick out her materials, carefully selecting them instead of bulk buying. Over the next few days, she didn't really go through the jet lag phase and stayed distant. I thought that was weird, but ended up giving her space and just focused on school. About 2 weeks post-return, we still weren't being intimate. Despite my advances and lightly prodding the issue, I just get a "I'm just feeling off and don't feel like it" response. I find that strange, since she is usually a 3 to 4 times a week kind of person, and we've been exploring some new kinks prior to her trip, which we had talked about kindling once she returned. The first few times that she doesn't reciprocate my advances, I don't think anything of it. We've always had a very open no policy, and are attentive to one another's needs, like time, tired, not feeling it, need it now. After 2 weeks, the combination of her distance and no intimacy feels really off. Over the weekend, she met up with her girlfriends for a day out. During that time, I snooped on her computer. If that bothers you, stop reading now. We have always been extremely open with our phones and social media. We both know our phone and computer passwords, and she knows my Facebook and so on. While she was out with her friend, I looked on her computer. She left her work and personal email and Facebook open or logged in. So I looked. Nothing out of the ordinary. Then I looked in the recycle bin and found that she had taken some private pictures with her phone, sent them to her email, downloaded, then deleted them, hence the recycling bin. I thought that was odd. Normally we would send pics to each other, not put them on our computers. Maybe she really liked them, she did look hot, and decided to keep them. This has my gears turning, because she has been really disinterested in intimacy since returning, but is taking selfies wearing lingerie. I looked at the metadata on the picture, confirmed it was taken recently, and that it was downloaded from Gmail. I went and looked at her Gmail. Nothing terribly odd here, but anything before 3 days after returning home had been deleted from her inbox, then deleted from the trash folder or not archived. Like if she came home on the 1st, everything before the 4th was deleted. However, in her trash bin was a confirmation of appointment for a health clinic in an adjacent city. It had a link with a user ID to log into the patient portal if you needed to change your appointment. I logged in with the ID and her common passwords, which I already knew from us sharing. The portal is mostly empty, but showed that she had scheduled and kept an appointment the same afternoon that she got home from her trip. The portal allows you to request records from visits, so I did. They were delivered to the portal about 30 minutes later. She had gone in for STD testing 5 hours after coming home from an 8-week business trip. To summarize, 1. Gets tested for STDs while saying she is going shopping the day she returns from an 8-week business trip. 2. Concealed the fact that she was tested, didn't leave phone number or address at the clinic, careful to delete emails pertaining to the clinic, made cover excuse to go out. 3. Super distant with me but very engaging towards friends and coworkers, and no intimacy. 4. Says not interested in it, but dresses up to take private pics and more. Found lots of videos open on her computer. Vibe out, not anything odd. We watch these videos together and alone. Open about self-servicing. 5. On a similar business trip, she did almost the exact same thing. Got tested as soon as she got home from a 7-week trip. Refrained from intimacy for about a week and distant. I found out via similar ways. Shared computer. Saw email from health clinic about results on portal. Previously, when I asked her about it, she said she had a UTI and went in for a full STD panel. Totally plausible. I let it go. I just feel like there's a pattern here. Also said that STD test was normal for women during checkups, although most clinics say that you must ask for the tests or have reasonable suspicion. 6. No real reason to suspect cheating, but damn, this feels weird. All the elements of possibility are there, I suppose. Possible explanations. 1. She had another health problem that seemed to resolve itself. Maybe she wanted more follow-up and didn't want to belabor me with the details, although the other health issue isn't urogenital related. She didn't receive any tests that would aim to diagnose the concomitant issue. 2. Health information could be weird if someone reading over your shoulder sees an email in your personal inbox from a clinic, so you delete it. I'm not sure this explains why her inbox was cleaned or stuff deleted from the trash. 3. Maybe she feels a little detached from me after being away for so long and needs more time to warm back up. 4. Could have also had another UTI and got STD panel at the request of practitioner. Although, no antibiotics, treatments were administered during the visit or weren't documented. 5. Maybe she thought I was cheating and got tested. Although, 8 weeks later seems a little outside of the incubation period. The secrecy of the whole thing really bothers me. Any ideas on how to approach this topic with my wife or other possible explanations? Now for the top advice before reading the updates. She's totally cheating. This man is choosing to be blind. It's like somebody is slapping him nonstop with red flags, over and over and over again. Whilst laying bloody and battered on the floor, flag stripes all over his broken body, he keeps murmuring, "She did not cheat on me, no way." I'd print all the proof you need, confront her about it so that she can't lie. She's cheating OP. Yup, STD tests aren't routine during gyno checkups. You have to ask for it specifically, and if her portal only says appointment for STD panel, she isn't doing a routine health screening. Honey, I know about the STD checkup. That's how you approach this situation. Or I would like to talk about your recent doctor's appointment. At this point, there is absolutely no need to jump to conclusions. Don't spend a lot of time hashing over it, just go and speak to her. Do not listen to all these miserable people who will say you're blind, stupid, or foolish. None of that matters. What matters is getting it straight with this woman and getting back to your life. All wrong, dude. She cheated on you, plain and simple. She's probably been cheating on you for a while now, if multiple business trips have resulted in this. If you two are as open as you say you are, there's no reason for her to delete private pics she never sent to you, no reason to delete everything from up to 3 days prior, no reason to hide the test results from you, no reason to lie about having gotten the test in the first place, and no reason to be distant. Dude, you've made up explanations that simply don't fit. The simplest explanation is generally the correct one. She's cheating on you. Sure, I know it looks that way, which is why I'm asking for advice and possible alternatives here. I am hesitant to make any accusations without more empirical proof. I feel like most of what I'm saying here is largely circumstantial and I could be spinning a web from nothing. Just looking for some thoughtful insights, maybe from other women about how normative this is. All signs point to cheating man. Sorry, I cannot think of a viable alternative, and I'm generally a more logical person who doesn't jump to immediate conclusions. Good luck. I think it's best to just confront it for what it is, and either move on with counseling or divorce. Now for the multiple short updates. Update 1. Admitted to cheating on her trip. Says only once. Evidence suggests at least 2. Update 2. 3 confirmed in 1 trip. Digging in now. Update 3. Typical. It was a one-time thing responses. It was your fault responses. Confirmed at least 3 dudes during her last trip alone. Likely systemic serial cheater since we've been together. Refuses to admit anything outside this business trip, even though she had carbon copy behavior 2 years ago. Refuses to be honest. Claims she wasn't going to meet anyone on her current solo camping trip. I know otherwise. Keep catching her in lies. Filing papers now. Update 4. It's at least 4 now. 1 on her first trip 2 years ago, hence the STD test then. Mutual friend knew about it, kept it secret. This is days or a week after we got engaged. Now for the full update at D-Day plus 55. Hey folks, I'm at D-Day plus 55 and I wanted to share a little bit more of my story and just talk it out. It gets a bit lonely at night and that's when my gears start cranking without the noise of the day to keep up distractions. So writing it out and clearing the air is perhaps cathartic. Wife and I have been married for 1.5 years, together for 4.5. We are both graduate students. I'm working towards my MD/PhD in genetics, and she is working towards her PhD in microbiology. No kids, few assets, not much debt. Here's the backstory if you'd like more information. Luckily, we study at different schools. I'm on the West Coast, where she was residing with me and working remotely, and she studies at my undergraduate institution in another state. When I found out and confronted her, she was on her way back to her school to do lab work and have committee meetings. So, our communications were largely conducted via text messaging and email. She was too much of a coward to speak to me on the phone. I suppose the discovery of infidelity in one's relationship is shocking and painful, and begins to pave an arduous road towards the penultimate reconciliation, or the parsing of community property. In my case, it's been the latter. It's not the intimacy that bothers me. I can understand those inclinations. I'm a biologist. Attraction, emotional investment, feeling wanted, the taboo of risk, adrenaline, those things make sense to me. What I could not understand is how my wife, someone I adore and respect immensely, could lie to her affair partners about who and what I am. It's like her inner monologue flowed freely to them, her true thoughts about me expressed vocally. That made me physically sick. I'm not a bad guy. I've always been there for my wife. We jived on every level, from toilet paper orientation to politics, humor, hobbies, and intimacy. It just doesn't make sense. During the post-mortem, I've often come to the realization that, as a partner on a two-way street, I could have always done more or achieved a stronger marriage. That's the sentimental part of my brain saying, look at all these missed opportunities for communication and growth. If you had really loved your wife, you would have figured it out and met her needs. That's a deadly game of roulette to play. The retrospective what if on infinite regression plays discordantly upon the soul. If the discovery of infidelity wasn't shocking enough, I also asked my wife to reconcile. She denied. I gave her a list of demands with 7 items. The header reads, the ground rules. If you choose not to comply, or I suspect that you have failed to comply with these rules, I will divorce you. Here is the abridged version of what I asked for. 1. You will allow me unfettered access to your phones, accounts, devices, and computers at any time without hesitation. 2. You will forfeit and show me all communications and materials of all extramarital relations that you've engaged in, no matter how minor or how insignificant you feel they were. 3. You will allow me to professionally recover data from your phone and other devices. If there is something that you haven't told me yet or haven't given me the full story, this would be a good time to do so. I extend you amnesty for other grievances notwithstanding lying. 4. You will contact all parties that you've engaged with, in any way, and explain that you were in a monogamous relationship, your husband knows, and that you messed up. You will apologize for misleading anyone about your relationship status, and you will contact their partners and explain what happened. 5. You will get tested for STDs and STIs every month for the next 6 months, including blood panels. This information will be made available to me at my request. 6. You will seek and engage in cognitive behavioral therapy until you have been treated for your dysmorphia, eating disorder, and have healthy managed your traumas. You and I will receive marriage counseling indefinitely or until we both feel that our problems have been resolved. We will both engage in communication coursework or reading. 7. Rules for opening the relationship. Maybe too controlling. Everything that I asked her for, I also offered to reciprocate where applicable. The first bloodletting was the discovery of the infidelity, and the mortal strike was her denying me safety in the relationship through dismissal of my needs. Once it was clear that she wasn't trying to reconcile, I was ready to burn it to the ground. I threatened to contact her partners, contact her affair partner's significant others, file professional misconduct complaints as one affair partner was her physician, contact her research board about misconduct, and contact her direct bosses, people whose image is jeopardized by her actions. She freaked out and suddenly became extremely receptive to what I was asking for. Begged me not to ruin her career, begged me not to tell anyone. I felt bad, apologized, and told her I wouldn't do that. By then, she had already gone to her bosses and conveyed some truth-trickled story to them. I obviously added a lot more pain to the situation by playing that card. This was almost a month ago. She filed for divorce the next day, threatened to file an order of protection so that I wouldn't contact people in her life, and then told me she couldn't forgive me for threatening to expose her like that. That's when I woke up. I had been drowning, undergoing hemorrhagic shock, and the hypothermia was creeping in. I had been desperately trying to get my wife on the shoreline to throw me a life preserver. My actions caused her to get her feet wet and she couldn't handle it. I started to understand who she was, weak and cowardly, not exactly life partner material. A few weeks later, I had a realization. It's like she died. That's what the pain and emptiness and anger feel like. I found out later that she was still in contact with one of her partners. Another punch in the gut. Anyways, that's where I'm at. I applaud you if you made this far. Our divorce is underway and will hopefully be resolved cleanly. For the time being, things here are quiet, empty, and lonely. My schoolwork has suffered, and I'm thinking about taking some time off to process everything. Thanks for listening. One affair partner was her physician. Agree with not going scorched earth, but I would report this guy. It's very unethical and medical board violation for a physician to take advantage of the power dynamic of a physician-patient relationship. Essentially, he's a predator. He'd be doing society and his future patients a favor. Yeah, I've really thought about this one a lot. I have a professional obligation to report him. Like you're suggesting, this probably isn't the first time he has engaged in this kind of behavior. According to my wife, he made her verbally affirm that he was not her doctor. I'm not sure if he signed any medical documentation that would suggest he was involved with her care. However, she acknowledged that he was on her care team, and that he performed sonography to screen for internal bleeding, at one point commenting that my wife had acute uterus. The guy sounds like a scumbag. I'm not sure what third-party reporting would accomplish though. I suspect my wife and he would both deny the encounters. If he's ever filed an insurance claim for treating her, he's her doctor. Given the nature of how her healthcare works during her fieldwork, there is no insurance paperwork. She admitted via text to me that he was on her care team. That's how they met. She also admitted to me that he performed sonography on her. You should still expose her to everyone involved. She might be carrying diseases that she's spreading. You giving people a heads up that their husbands might be bringing home an STD from your wife is the moral thing to do. I've seen the STI or STD results. She is clean. But I see what you mean. There is a potential public health hazard, but that's something that everyone engaging in intimate activity has to bear. I applaud that you've had the restraint to not contact everyone she's seeing. It sounds like she's already moved on. It isn't fair, because it feels like she's won the divorce and relationship already. But she sounds like she's behaving like a single 26 female, instead of a married 26 female for a long time now. The quicker you bring yourself back into the mindset of being a single 28 male instead of a married 28 male, the better off you'll be. She has a head start. It isn't fair. I know, dude. It seems so unfair even reading this. Maybe I'm projecting my own life into your situation, but it killed me how unfair it was that my ex was able to basically walk away and have a bunch of relationships, while I was stuck alone and bitter. I felt ruined. But you bring up some good points. Y'all never had kids, seem to have kept your lives somewhat separate despite being married. In a few years, this one will be the immature woman you married in your 20s. Don't make it the story of the woman you're retaliated against professionally to make her hurt as much as you hurt, because you seem like a decent enough person, and reconciling that with your self-image would be pretty damn hard. But you seem to be thinking about it the right way. Her life seems really sad. You escaped a sinking ship, dude. Time. You try to reverse course upon realizing that you're going to lose the one person you care about the most, unless you make changes. Years later, you can say that you've done great, and now you like how life has turned out. Happy home life with the wife and kids. Then one day you get blindsided with the revelation that the partner you love and care for so much betrayed you in such a devastating way. With your own family member, no less. This is what happened to the first poster of this episode. Original post. Title basically sums it up. I, 36 male, was absolutely blindsided last night. For some background info, my wife 35, and I have been married for 11 years, and have 2 young children together. We weren't as close at the beginning of our marriage because I was working so much, but since having kids, we grew to be a lot closer. Likewise, I never had the best relationship with my brother, and we've frequently clashed throughout our childhood and adulthood. However, he attended college in the same city where I reside, and because housing was too expensive, I let him stay with us as a sophomore. After college and marrying my sister-in-law, he has become a lot more mature, and our relationship improved. Of course, all of my feelings towards the both of them have changed for the worst after last night. So, the other day, I invited my brother and sister-in-law to dinner. We all had a good time, and after the kids went to bed, we decided to have some drinks. Unbeknownst to me, my brother and sister-in-law had been arguing all day before coming to our house, so tensions were high. During a story about my brother's time in college, I could tell my sister-in-law was getting agitated. She kept looking at me, and I was confused as to why, until we all were quiet. She turned to me and said something along the lines of, "Did you know your brother and wife were pretty much hooking up the whole time?" At first, I thought she was just making a sick joke, until I saw their faces. Both my brother and my wife had expressions that were a mixture of shock and guilt. Even thinking about it now makes me sick to my stomach. Before they even said anything, I knew. I got up from the table, and both of them followed me trying to apologize and explain. From what I understood is that, during my brother's sophomore year, my wife cheated on me with him. They slept together while I was away from the house, and they decided to end it because they didn't want to hurt me. Yeah, right. He wasn't with my sister-in-law at the time, so he must have told her about their affair recently. I'm not sure how long she has known nor why she decided to tell us this at dinner. My wife tried to justify it by saying that it was 8 years ago, and she didn't want to throw away what we have now for a mistake in the past. I threw them all out of the house, and I haven't responded to any calls or texts. I'm unsure of where to go from here because my wife and I have kids together, and like she said, it was 8 years ago. I was humiliated last night, and I'm not sure what my next step should be. I can't get the image of them together in my house out of my head. I love my wife so much, but this revelation has completely shattered my image of her. I don't know how I can ever forgive my brother for this. Now for the top advice before reading the update. The justification of it was 8 years ago baffles me. Like, yes, maybe, but to me, it is new information today. I personally don't think I'd be able to get past that. I'd divorce, since I'd rather see my kids grow in 2 separate happy homes than watch me resent their other parent. I'd be going no contact with the brother, and I would take out the sister-in-law for drinks. She really did you a solid. Take DNA tests from your children as well. It's best to know. I had a person lie to me about something, and when I finally figured it out like 8 months later and asked her about it, she was like, "I don't know why you care about this. It's old news." Yeah, old to you, brand new to me. My ex was always like, "Why are you bringing up my past cheating? We're talking about my recent cheating," which is a paraphrase, removing all BS and nonsense rationalizations. I'm pretty sure sister-in-law waited to be drunk to tell him. Now she told him and cleared her conscience, with little to no backfiring from it. Smart. OP, thanks sister-in-law, she's a great person. I'd like to add that I have no problem with the sister-in-law's timing for lobbing this grenade. It made it impossible for the wife and brother to lie and keep it hidden. Some would argue against the way this was done, but there was no way this information could be soft-pedaled anyway. It always baffles me when the lying or cheating partner says that the other person would be throwing away the relationship. No, they threw it away by cheating on you, and then lying for 8 years. Oh, but remember, they didn't want to hurt him, so they're saints really. Oh, absolutely, so consider it. Get the kids tested and get yourself checked for STDs. She was willing to cheat with your own brother, so she's not overly concerned it will get back to you. There's no reason to think this is the only time she cheated. As for her explanation, here's what she means. She only cheated because she wanted to, and only hid it because she didn't want to have any consequences. She's been cool with lying to you all along. She only feels bad now because it might negatively impact her life. I'm sorry, but you just found out who your wife really is. Thank you. I can't even begin to think about DNA testing, but you're right. I need to know the full truth. I don't think our marriage is going to continue. She has completely broken my trust and would have continued to lie about it if my sister-in-law hadn't brought it up. And now for the update. First and foremost, I DNA tested my children. The affair took place years before they were born, but I wanted to be sure. They are mine. My kids mean everything to me, and it's difficult having to try to explain what's going on and why their parents are suddenly splitting since they're so young. I've been very depressed as of late, and besides work or taking care of them, it's been hard to find the energy to do anything. I feel so numb, and it's been so difficult adjusting to this new life. As for my wife, it's been hard talking to her. Every time I see her, I'm reminded of her and my brother's betrayal. I imagine them in my own home, knowing that both of them knew they were hurting me. She's currently living with a friend while I stay in the house. I've been very cold towards her, and every conversation has been mainly about our kids. Under our state's guidelines, my wife and I are separated and undergoing a cooling-off period for a couple of months. However, there is almost no question we are going to get divorced. My wife has been very bitter about this, and she's gone from calling me an asshole to begging me to take her back. I've received texts, calls, emails from some of her family members asking me to reconsider. I don't think that I could ever really trust her again knowing she hid this from me, especially when she had constant contact with her affair partner, my brother. I love her, but I also resent her deeply. A few days ago, I agreed to meet with my brother and sister-in-law. It was a tough decision because I haven't seen him since that night at dinner, and I wasn't sure if I would be able to meet face to face without hitting him in the face. He again expressed remorse and guilt. He told me that he and my wife had always been close, and the following is basically a summary of his side. My wife and I met in college, and he was introduced to her when he was still a teen. He said their relationship at first was like having an older sister. Our dad left when he was young, and I think that I tried to fill the fatherly role, which led to us frequently clashing. Meanwhile, my wife was someone that would listen to him. He said that whenever they saw each other, she was always friendly and warm, treating him like a best friend. He said that he developed feelings for her which she apparently was aware of, but nothing ever happened between them because she treated him like a friend. It wasn't until he was in college and living with us that she reciprocated, and the affair began. She was the one to break it off because she wanted to try rekindling our marriage. It was a secret that both of them agreed to keep, and he was terrified of telling me, especially after our relationship improved in adulthood. I'm still furious with my brother for lying to me over the last 8 years, but his story helped me understand the context of the affair a little better. It doesn't make me feel any better, but I am at least aware of how it started. It makes me sick to think of my wife doing this. This woman, once the love of my life and mother of my children, is like a stranger to me now. My sister-in-law only knew that my wife and brother had an affair, but she was unaware of their earlier relationship. She apologized to me for revealing it the way she did, and humiliating both me and my brother over an argument they'd had earlier. Thank you for reading this far. I'm unsure of where to go from here. I still feel so broken and lost after my wife's revelation, and I know that I have to keep going for my kids, but I'm not sure when or if I can think about forgiveness or moving on to a new relationship. Where do I go from here? It feels like my life has been completely torn apart. Gray rock is a technique to use whenever you have any contact with your wife. If your decision to divorce is final, contact should stay civil and be about the children only. Any questions about anything else should be diverted to your divorce lawyer. If you haven't retained a lawyer, you should do that as soon as possible. Came here to suggest the gray rock or the 180 method for UOP. Please spend some quality time with your kids, family, and friends. If you haven't already, you need to inform your family and friends of what your wife and brother did. They betrayed you in a significant manner. You certainly don't owe it to them to lie to cover their cheating. They need to face the consequences, and if you lie or keep quiet, then the cheaters win. This brings me to this second point. She has a strong dissonance when she was calling you an asshole for kicking her out, so somehow it is your fault now. That tells me that she's not okay with having to deal with the consequences of her actions. Her begging to take her back is just her way to cover her behind and to keep maintaining her lifestyle and a good family image. It has got nothing to do with you. As for her family members calling you to ask you to reconsider, they of course would have her best interests at heart. Unfortunately, her best interests do not align with your best interests anymore. If you want, I would call the soon-to-be ex-father and mother-in-law and ask them these questions. If their own partner betrayed them in such a significant manner, would they still get back together with that person? If they are brazen enough to answer yes, then tell them that you would need to have no self-respect in order to do that. Also, request them to stop calling, or better yet, just block all her family's numbers. Good luck. This is hard, but this too shall pass and days will get less worse. Sorry OP. Ultimate betrayal by two people who claim to love you. Your wife is, sorry to say, trash. Took advantage of a younger man, your brother, in your home. Unacceptable. Stick to your guns. She was going to take this to her grave. There is no coming back from this. She called you an asshole first. Now she is begging. Of course, she crushed her world. Not you, her. Divorce her. You can do better. My wife has been very bitter about this, and she's gone from calling me an asshole to begging me to take her back. I find it hilarious she has any right to be bitter, considering she is the one who cheated. But hey, cheaters never change and are always selfish pieces of trash. Now for the last story. My girlfriend goes out with her single female friend, and two guys I've never met or heard of. Original post. So my 23 male, girlfriend 25 female, went out with her single friend last night, and they hung out and partied with two guys I've never met or heard of. While I'm usually chill about her going out with her friends, I do feel a discomfort knowing she had done coke all night and woke up with a hangover. Obviously I don't control her, but I just don't like the idea of it. How should I react to this situation? She was too hungover to really have a conversation with me this afternoon, so I told her we can talk later. I blindly trust her always, but is this something I should just not pay mind to? Or is it okay to tell her I don't really feel comfortable with her doing that? Now for the top advice before reading the update. There is a huge difference between setting boundaries and controlling someone. If you're not comfortable with her doing meds, which is totally understandable, especially with strangers, because that's just stupid and unsafe, and she can't respect that, it might be time to be done. In my experience, if they cross the line of your comfort once and try to convince you it's okay, they're going to keep doing it. Your girlfriend and her single girlfriend go out, hang out with two dudes you don't know, doing coke all night, and she tries to turn it around on you. That is the recipe for disaster right there, brother. I definitely would not tolerate that, not in a relationship. Yes, she crossed the line. Up to you if you decide to try and talk to her about it. If she gets defensive and tries to turn it back on you again, walk on, tell her have a nice life. Stay strong, stand by your principles. You got this, brother. Good luck. You have to be a moron to ignore this giant red flag. She and friend went out with two guys all night doing coke and partying all night. She definitely cheated. My ex did the same. She did recreational meds, usually at parties that I wasn't at. It's the same story. One time she got so high and practically tore my clothing off after returning from a party. At first I was like, hell yeah. But the next day, 2020 kicked in, and I wondered if that behavior happened to someone else when I wasn't available. If you're saying to yourself yes, ding ding, winner winner, chicken dinner. Eventually even her own friends were like, you're a great guy, but she's banging so and so whenever she gets a break from you. Either they meet at party I couldn't attend, or they just went to a bar then parking lot. He was an ex that sold stuff, so she was getting a discount. What a horrible way to live your life. Karma was not kind to her. Eventually all that partying and stuff did something to her brain, and she ended up really messed up, needing long-term care. Last time I saw her, I don't think she could even speak. Just sad really. She was fun to be with, and I really did love her and her energy, but I guess part of that energy was coming from that self-destructive side. And now for the update. I spoke to her and explained why it made me uncomfortable. Obviously, I got hit with the, why don't you trust me, and the, this is controlling behavior thing. But again, this is not about trust for me. It is not about telling her what she can and can't do in this relationship. This is about having a certain level of respect and boundaries in a relationship based on my expectations. So, I made it clear that she can do whatever she wants, and that's fine. However, I made it clear that I don't like it and it's not something I want in my romantic relationship, and she can do whatever she wants with that information. Simple as that. No one should have to deal with things they don't like in a relationship. If they can't respect that, and their actions show you they didn't take those things into consideration, then you know where she stands and you can end the relationship knowing that you respected yourself and your woman. This goes the same for anyone in a relationship. I have made a decision. After a lot of thought and talking to my mom and some friends, I think it's best I end my relationship. Thinking about it makes me incredibly sad, as it's difficult not to think back on the good memories we've had, but I know it'll be better for me in the long run. Despite how much this is going to suck, I'm going to focus on just myself now. I just started a new job that I love, got my driver's license, and I'm eager to build and grow myself up to be the best version of myself. I've realized just how often my girlfriend's been gaslighting me. The thing is, she's done this before with this same friend, where she went to the club with her and two guys. Her friend apparently was hooking up with one of the guys, and she admitted to having danced a bit with the other guy. We've also already had a rocky week prior to this because she hid her phone from me while we were sitting on the couch watching the new Stranger Things finale. So, there's been a clear pattern. I had approached her about both incidents and was labeled as controlling when I asked her if I could see who she was Snapchatting, and she declined to show me. She also claimed that I shouldn't have to look through someone's phone if you trust them, but I just asked to see who she's snapping, which is perfectly reasonable given the circumstance. I should have left her then. Along with that, she's also seemingly avoided posting pictures of us together romantically on her Instagram, but she has 20+ photos of her ex still on there. She takes her Instagram seriously, as in she cares about her follower to following ratio. She never respected me, and I guess I'm just coming to terms with it now. I was naive about it, but I can say I've learned a valuable lesson about relationships. Set boundaries early in your relationship. Put your foot down, because a woman won't respect you otherwise. I thought giving her the freedom to do what she wanted all the time was a way to show her I trusted her and that I wasn't bothered by other guys. Well, screw that. I'm territorial, whether I like it or not. That's who I am. Maybe this is alright for her, but this isn't the type of committed relationship I was looking for. Writing this has already helped me so much for me to come to terms with it. Thank you to those that listened and gave some thoughtful responses. I'll give an update on the situation probably within the next few days. Last update. Just came here to say I broke up with her, and I actually feel a bit relieved. Obviously, I feel some sadness, but I feel like it was the right choice. Days. The official stats say 50-50, but for the OP of this story, it might as well be 90-10, given that she grew up with all of her friends' parents either divorced or never married. Imagine growing up watching your parents in a loving relationship for 25 years. People around you, friends and teachers, looking at them and telling you how lucky you are for having a great example of what marriage should be like, only to one day accidentally find out that your mom is actually betraying your dad in a nasty, disgusting way. Let's read this story. Original post. My 24 female, mom, 47 female, and dad 50 male, have been together for 25 years, and I could have honestly said that they were the ideal relationship in my mind. They rarely ever argued, always talked to each other, and I thought, we're always loving and faithful to each other. I can even remember in school a few of my teachers telling me that my dad and mom were a great couple, and that I should be thankful that I had a great example of what a healthy relationship looks like. They've rarely argued. I can count on both of my hands the times they've yelled at each other. They've always been happy together, as far as I know. I needed to use my mom's laptop to send off some work emails, as mine was not connecting to our Wi-Fi. I started sending off emails, and my mom's messages popped up on her laptop. It was from a guy named Chris, and he thanked her for draining him last night. I, not knowing what the hell was going on, decided to open up her messages, and I saw that she has been cheating on my dad for the past year at least. The messages they sent each other were extremely explicit, and they even sent pictures and videos. I started to hyperventilate and realized what was happening. I started to dry heave. I was able to screenshot the messages and send the pictures to my email. After that, I told my parents I was going out for a bit. My dad told me to stay safe and kissed my forehead, and I nearly broke down in the house. I was able to drive away for a few minutes and get to a private location and cry. Why would she do this? Does she not love my dad? He's done so much for her, waited on her hand and foot when she broke her legs skiing, moved so she could be closer to her family when she went through PPD with me. He's done so much for all of us, and she does this. Why? Dad was always there for her when she needed him, worked overtime to allow us to experience things together. I don't know what I'm going to tell my sister, 18. She's coming back from university next week and she adores our dad. It's also the last thing I want to tell my brother, 22. Because he's doing his master's, and I don't want anything to distract him from his final exams in a few months. It's like I can't tell anyone about this. All of my friends' parents are divorced or were never married to begin with, and they also looked at my parents as what a good marriage looked like. I'm sorry if I'm rambling, I just don't know what to do. Whenever I think about it, I feel hurt. I remember when I was 16 and my mom showed me the love letters and poems my dad wrote for her. And they were all so beautiful. He's loved her with all of his heart for 25 years, and she's been doing this to him. The last person I want to tell is my dad. I feel as if me telling him will break everything, and the dad I knew who was so loving and caring will be gone. I've been told by my friends that it happened to their parents too, that for years they were never the same. My best friend's dad took his own life when he found out about his wife's infidelity. I'm sorry if this is rambling, I'm just so hurt and confused. Why would she do this? How do I tell my dad that the person he's loved for the last 25 years has betrayed him? Please, any advice is appreciated. Now for the top advice before reading the update. This almost the exact situation happened to me with my mom when I was 18. I confronted her at the time and told her she had to tell my dad. I didn't feel like it was my place to tell him. 4 years later, I found out she was still doing it and never told my dad. My sister ended up telling him then. Looking back, I wish I would have told my dad right away when I was 18. A few years have gone by and my parents are actually still together. I don't live with them anymore, so I'm sort of disconnected, but things seem better for them. I'm so sorry you're going through this. It really messed up my entire family's relationship with my mom. She should tell him anonymously, so she doesn't have to go through any more trauma than she already is. She can admit to it being her, if she chooses, once he's made aware, processes the information, and talks to his wife. Make a burner email account on Gmail or use a texting app. Attach the pictures, state the names, and so on. That seems incredibly harsh, having a stranger anonymously tell you something so devastating. She needs to talk to mom. If mom doesn't come clean, she should talk to dad. It isn't something she should have to bear the weight of, but it's not something you want to hear from a stranger either. And I'm sure hearing it from your own child is devastating, but again, better than questioning a stranger. Tell her that she is to tell him or you will, and not to delete or hide anything because you already have the proof to show him if you have to. He deserves to know. She'll get mad that you saw her personal stuff and will probably get defensive. But if she wasn't fooling around, she'd have nothing to worry about. It'll be tough, but it needs to be done. Good luck and keep us updated. Agree with this. Mom, I'm not going to hold this in. And if you make me be the one to tell dad and the other kids what's going on, I'm probably going to hate you for it for the rest of my life. Do the right thing. Now for the update. Sorry for the post being so long. It has been a while since I last posted and a lot has happened. Thank you for everyone who responded and everyone who DM'd me with advice and support. So, after I got back home, I headed straight to bed. When I was having breakfast the next morning, I was on Twitter and my mom saw a thread on the Chris Rock situation at the Oscars and we got to talking about it. I ended up asking about if she would have, or ever had an open relationship agreement with dad. She shut it down straight away and said she could never do such a thing, and that she loved my dad too much to ever let him sleep with someone else. She then went on for about 10 minutes on how much she loved him, and how they were each other's one and only. I wanted to scream at her that I knew what she was doing, but I held my tongue and knew that I had to tell my dad about what I had found out. At the end of the week, I got everything together and asked my dad if he wanted to spend the day with me, and go get food and do whatever he wanted to do. He said sure, and that he hasn't really spent any time with me since I started my new job, and it'd be nice to spend the day together. I tried to keep everything together, but he could tell something was off. We went to his self-storage lot as he needed to pick up some stuff to bring back to the house. Before we left, he stopped me and asked if I was all right. He said, "Hey, are you okay? You've been really quiet and clingy today. Did something happen with your boyfriend?" I ended up bursting into tears and told him what happened. He asked if I was 100% sure, and I said that I had my laptop with me and I could show him some of the emails I had saved. When he saw them, I could see the pain in his eyes. It was like someone had stabbed him. For a few minutes he was silent and there were tears just streaming down his face. He wasn't sobbing, there were just tears. He hugged me and said, "Thank you for telling me about this. No matter what happens from here, please remember I love you and your brother and sister. You lot are my pride and joy, don't ever forget that." He dried his face and we ended up driving home. When we got back, he told me to not mention anything to mom, and he wanted to check some things before he talked to her about this. We all ended up going to sleep early that night, but I couldn't rest. I kept on having nightmares where the worst happened to my dad. I ended up going downstairs at around 2 in the morning and saw my dad on mom's laptop looking through her emails. I asked what he was doing, and this was the first time I've ever seen my dad so angry. He turned his head around to me and just said, "That freaking witch," and left the house. I checked the emails and saw that he had 4 days open. Seeing this has truly killed any part of me that had any feelings for my mom. The days in question were the day my aunt, dad's younger sister, died, the day after, the day of her funeral, and the day her ashes were scattered. In those emails were my mom asking to meet up with Chris, and asking Chris what he was going to do with her when she got to his place. I vomited again and realized that dad had just left the house and I had no idea where he was going. I got outside and saw he was sitting in the car and he was bawling. He couldn't stop crying. I felt as if this had broken him. After about an hour, I convinced him to come back inside and try to get some rest. I closed the laptop and put it back so my mom wouldn't find out about my dad going through her history. On the following Tuesday is when my dad decided to confront mom about her affair. I was not home when it happened, but he sat down with her and asked if she was having an affair. She of course denied this and said that she could never do such a thing and that she loved him with all her heart. My dad lost it and showed her the emails and yelled at her, phoned her brother to pick her up, and that he was filing for divorce immediately. Mom tried to say it was a mistake and that they could work through this, but dad isn't having any of it. Since that day, he has not contacted her unless it is through a lawyer. My uncle has come over the house a few times to get clothes and other things for my mom, and he tries to give updates on her well-being to my dad, but he just shuts it down and says he doesn't care, and says that she needs to speed up on getting paperwork signed. As for my brother and sister, I contacted my brother on the Wednesday and told him what had happened. I apologized because it was so close to his exams and that this is the last thing that he should be worried about. He said that he'd be coming back once exams were over, and that I should keep an eye on Dad just in case anything happened. My sister, on the other hand, came back home the day after I told her, and hasn't really left Dad's side since. She basically waiting on him hand and foot, cleaning the house, making dinner for all of us. I think she's taking this the worse, and my dad thought so too, so he asked her to see a counselor and that he'd be okay. My mom has tried to contact all of us and none of us have responded, aside from making sure she had started on the paperwork and was in contact with a lawyer, etc. Dad has said that I should probably meet with Mom soon, as despite all that's happened between the two of them, she was never a bad mom and loved us just as much as he did. So I will be meeting with her next week and I am dreading every minute of it. So now we're all in a weird place where we don't know what's going to happen next. Dad is a lot less like himself and is a lot quieter and more reserved, which scares me, but thankfully a lot of his friends and family have been offering him support. The one funny thing I can say is, when I told my close friends about their divorce, a lot of them made the joke that they'd be snapping up my dad once he's back on the dating market, which I can see as being a bit weird, but is pretty funny because they admitted to having crushes on him when they were 16. Stupid stuff like that, even if they are jokes, gives me some hope that once this all ends, he'll hopefully find someone who values and loves him like we all do. The days in question were the day my aunt, Dad's younger sister, died, the day after, the day of her funeral, and the day her ashes were scattered. In those emails were my mom asking to meet up with Chris, and asking Chris what he was going to do with her when she got to his place. Any hope, and I mean any hope, your mother had of even coming close to reconciling, was dealt a death blow from this one thing. Lots of couples do manage to survive the infidelity, if crap like this doesn't happen, but that level of cheating is not something that anyone could ever come back from. My guess is that as soon as he read those emails and saw the date, that any love or feelings he had for your mother disappeared in that instance. And so it should, as that is just patently disgusting and disrespectful. Cheating is bad enough, but that amount of disrespect is on a completely different level. Look after your dad, OP, but I suspect that his anger at your mother will take years to subside, if ever. I hope for her sake that she doesn't fight this and just agrees to the divorce. If she pushes back in any way, your father will burn everything to a cinder before he gives her anything. It's been a few weeks since everything has happened. I don't know if he's still angry, though he doesn't really talk about it with any of us. He has been spending a lot more time at the gym now compared to his normal schedule, and he's been spending time with his friend who trains boxers and other fighters. I don't know if that is indicative of anything concerning, or he's just trying to get rid of his anger in a healthy, controlled environment. It's the last part mostly. Gym brings focus. The boxing ring brings focus. It allows us to not think, just do for an hour or two. Our emotions are wired more physically into us, if that makes sense. This is mostly how we deal with highly intense emotional situations. That anger will probably never fully go away, or at least not for a long while. The gym and the boxing ring are healthy outlets to help bleed that anger so it doesn't consume your father. And OP, I've read through your original post and the update. If you don't want to face your mom, it's okay. She didn't only betray your dad, she betrayed you and your brother and sister too. Your update, especially with the dates your dad had open on the laptop, proves that your mom was selfish and only out for her pleasure. If you do go through meeting her, prepare for her to try and spin doctor/gaslight the situation to her advantage. Also assume you'll probably not get closure on why she cheated in any way that will satisfy you. Be safe, trust in your siblings and your dad. That's true family. Hope the four of you can heal fully from this. After my dad told my mom that he loves someone else and gonna leave her, she started running in the forest. Years later, she explained to me that she started running because otherwise she would have started drinking or did even worse. She needed a way to feel something else or nothing. Also, nobody heard her screaming and crying in the forest. She could let out her feelings without putting weight on her kids' shoulders. Now this is great. People tend to let themselves go when they're in serious relationships. Your dad is probably trying to let off some steam and make himself a better prospect too for when or if he eventually goes back on the market. Honestly, your dad seems like a great man and I'm happy you and your siblings are supporting him. That's all you can really do. Try to make his life as stress-free and easy as possible. Spend quality time with him, laugh and so on. I can't imagine what he's going through right now. It's nothing like the cheating I've experienced from girlfriends, but he does have you guys, so he'll be okay. You and your siblings are going to be the deciding factor on how hard this hits him. My dad hasn't really let himself go. He was very on top of being physically fit to the point of forcing me and my siblings to go on runs with him during the weekends and in the summer. He did stop boxing when my brother was born though, so he could be at the house more. I can remember when he bought home gym stuff when I was 6, and I nearly crushed myself trying to copy what he was doing. Now for the last story. My husband doesn't understand why I'm upset that he slept over a female coworker's house after a fight. My husband and I, 39 male and 41 female, just came back from our 11th anniversary vacation. We had an absolutely amazing time. The day after we came home, he went fishing with his brother. When he came home, he was in a horrible mood, snapping about everything I did. He was being completely fine to the kids though, but with me, it was like I couldn't do anything right. We eventually had a huge fight. He ended up yelling and slamming a door, and I told him to leave and cool off. I really can't even pinpoint exactly what he was mad about. He ended up leaving for the night. He came home and apologized for the fight and how he acted. I apologized for my part in the argument. I then asked where he had stayed last night, as he can't stay at his brother's house due to his brother's wife's 3 cats. He told me a coworker's house. I asked what coworker, and he said Julia. At first, I legitimately thought he was joking. Julia is 23 and single. She lives in an apartment complex not far from us. I asked him if he was serious, and he said yeah. He ran into her after he left the house when he went to the store to get a soda. He told her what happened, and she invited him to crash on her couch. He doesn't understand why I'm upset. By his logic, he was somewhere close to home. He didn't spend money on a hotel, and he didn't have to spend a lot of gas money to drive to his mother's house. He said he slept on her couch, and if she was a single male friend, there wouldn't be an issue. I asked him if he thought it would be okay if I slept over one of my single male coworkers' houses. He said no, and that it's different, because single men aren't trustworthy. I'm just baffled by his logic and how he doesn't understand why I'm upset. Now for the advice. Talk to Julia. This may be the way, but she might lie, so tread lightly on all of it. Genuinely speaking, none of this behavior is okay to begin with. Everybody has bad days and everybody loses their cool sometimes. But all of this leading up to that, not cool. Also, time is of the essence. Don't wait to talk to her. The longer you wait, the more time you give him to cover his tracks. And if she's whack, then she will go along with it. Talk to her, and remember that if anything stupid did happen, she's not necessarily at fault, and even if she was, she already doesn't care about your opinion, so your emotions would be wasted on her. Also, remind your husband that single females can't be trusted either. And finally, if all else fails, remember that people are going to do what they want to do regardless of anyone else's opinion. We're selfish like that. If he wants to do something stupid, let him. Because if you don't, he's gonna figure out a way to do it behind your back and anger you. Rather explain the possible consequences of said actions that would directly affect the both of you. No sense in arguing if he wants to do something you're not okay with. He needs to understand he will be met with the same level of respect. Did he actually go on a fishing trip with the brother, or was that a cover-up? Call the sister-in-law and ask if her husband, the brother, went fishing. "45 male. Will have to tell my son 28 male that his new girlfriend 35 female's child might be mine." Original post. There was no cheating involved whatsoever. I would never do that to my own son. He's only been seeing her for about 4 months from what he's told me, but she and I dated 2 years ago. But it ended because I was going to be traveling out of work for months and we just lost contact. She has a 1.5-year-old son that is very likely my child. My son told me the father isn't involved, but hasn't given him any other details other than it's just her raising the kid. I was the one to connect the dots as soon as I realized it was her. You can't imagine how unbelievably awkward the first time meeting was. Thankfully, it was with other family members around, but she was just as freaked out as I was. This can't be kept a secret though. If this is my child, I need to know. And as much as it pains me to put my son in this messed up position, he needs to know too. He's coming over later on so we could talk. I'm beyond nervous. I really don't even know where to start explaining something like this to him. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Man, that's not how I would have guessed this story would end. Good luck with breaking the news. Hopefully he takes the news as you intend. I don't expect him to react rationally. It's such a messed up curveball to throw right at him, but I hope eventually he is able to understand this happened before they got together and can process the news in a healthy manner. Maybe you should do a paternity test before spilling the beans. Sounds like your son's girlfriend has a type. I would never be able to cope with the fact that my girlfriend, or wife, dear God, had been with my dad. About 10 years ago, I caught my dad and my ex texting each other. It made me feel ill, literally. I would maybe try and confirm with the girl alone first, then take it from there. No reason to mess anything up if it's just a misunderstanding. We've talked briefly about this after I made the connection. She says he's mine, but according to her, was worried I might not want to be involved since I was gone for work for who knows how long. Not an excuse to keep this information from me, but it's done now. I'd still like to get a paternity test done just to be absolutely sure. The math adds up, but it could also be she was seeing others. Who knows? But that's why I want the test, so there's zero doubts. How did your son take it? What a messed up situation. Poor guy. Whatever you do, please don't get back with her ever. I haven't spoken to him yet. He's coming over in a few hours so we can talk. Edit to update on this since many of you have asked. Yes, my son knows everything now. The conversation was not easy at all. My son was very confused and upset, as would anyone honestly. I expected him to yell at me, but the shock was too much for him to get a strong reaction, but he was still very serious. I made sure he knew I'd understand if this is too much for him, so whatever he needs from me I will try to do. As of right now he just needs some space. And I said in another comment that after our talk last night, he messaged me about going over to her place so he can hear this from her too. As far as I know they have had their own talk, but not so sure about where they stand now. He didn't talk to me all day until he sent me a message earlier telling me he loves me, but he's gonna need some time to himself, which I completely understand. It's not gonna be something he will easily get over. As far as paternity, well, we still don't know anything about that. I have communicated with her about finding a place where we can get this test done and out of the way, so we'll be doing that this week. It can't wait any longer, otherwise, it's just gonna drive me crazy. Now for the second and full update. Apologies for taking so long to update on this. There really has been a lot going on, but I'm taking the time to finally get back to all of you after your amazing support. It was a strange situation to be in, so believe me, I'm glad to have gotten the positive feedback and reassurance that I did. So yes, if you saw the update, I included that my son does know now about everything. He needed a little time to himself, and they did decide in the end to mutually break up. They both knew it wasn't worth complicating things more down the line when they haven't been together that long. My son did admit to me he was a little sad about the relationship, but he's glad I told him before his feelings for her grew to love. We didn't talk much for almost a week because he was having a boys' trip with his close friends, and then he needed a little time to get used to all of this information. The good thing is, we are talking again normally, which I am so grateful for. Seriously, it worried me how much this would affect my relationship with him, and I'm happy he's been so open about his feelings. He tells me it's still crazy how all this happened. He told me he's accepted it though, and might try dating again in another few weeks. It's not all perfect, but at least we are talking like we always do though. And more than anything, I'm so happy he didn't hold what happened against me since none of us knew about this until we all had dinner. Now for the part I know lots of you wanted to hear about. We did that paternity test, and the results did confirm her son is also mine. Part of me just had a feeling he was anyway, but it didn't hurt to just know for sure. We have been communicating more and I've taken the time to come over to see him almost every day. He's not wary of strangers. In fact, he's been pretty friendly, so that has really helped with trying to bond with him. Not my first rodeo as a dad obviously, but I still feel like I'm learning everything all over again after so long, and especially after missing so much time with him already. I've been able to hold him and play with him with his toys, which is a blast. It's just the fact that I have another son that I'll get to experience many new milestones with. Always makes me smile. My son knows about his half-brother now. He told me he'd like to meet him at some point in the future, when it doesn't feel as weird. He never met him before that, like I explained in a few comments, because they hadn't been dating long enough to introduce him. My son thinks it's kind of nice knowing he has a brother now. Again though, he told me he is going to need more time to adjust before he's comfortable with officially meeting him, and I understand that completely. So yeah, it's been quite a ride so far. You can imagine how busy it's been with a new kiddo to bond with and raise. We are currently working with a lawyer to get all the legal things set right away. I want to make sure I have my rights as a father, and get my time with my son if she ever changes her mind about being compliant and decides to shut me out of his life again. That's all I have as of right now in terms of an update, so I hope this answered some of your questions. I believe, because this didn't involve any sort of betrayal and you were honest with him, your relationship with him will recover. Yes, that is what I hope for too. And with time that he is also able to have a relationship with his younger brother if that's what he would like. The best part is that you were fully honest. I mean, he could be angry or lost, but not on a long term. I mean, what could he have blamed you for? For having an intimacy or love life? It's a full surprise for everyone involved. And I am sure that later your youngest son is going to feel super glad that everyone knew to be an adult and act both in his and his brother's best interest. Man, that is really one tough situation. Looks like you'll just have to wait out on this one for your son to calm down and process the situation. All the best wishes towards you and him. All I can do for now, and obviously be there for both my sons. He's taking his time to process, and I'm glad he's going at this at his own pace. Best of luck to you and your sons going forward. It's going to be wild interacting all together in the same room with the mother. I think the most important relationships are you and your sons, so put all your focus and attention on those. And I wish you nothing but ease ahead. This is a wild situation, but I'm happy for the sake of that little boy. You sound like a loving and responsible father. I'm glad you both haven't been robbed of a relationship and all the bonding that goes with that together ahead. Live on and well. I hope your eldest can heal well too. Sounds like you raised him well too. I can't even imagine how he must be trying to wrap his head around all this. Hope going forward things pan out well for you. Thank you for updating us all. Glad it worked out as best it could have. You were honest, upfront, and responsible. Hopefully that's a great example for them both too. Now for the last story. Am I the idiot for only paying for my son's wedding? Plus update. Original post. Hello everyone, I have been going through some trouble recently, and one of my kids told me about this place, so I'm here to ask you all for help. She also mentions that I should probably tell you guys I'm on mobile. Okay, I am a 57-year-old male who has 3 kids, 30 male, 27 female, and 25 male. Me and my wife have paid for each of my 2 oldest's weddings, which covered dress, suit, bridal parties. Or if they wanted to have a destination wedding, we covered guests who couldn't afford it, as well as the honeymoon. Now, there was no budget placed on them. My oldest wedding total was around $85K, while my daughter's was around $120,000. My youngest is getting married, and him and his soon-to-be wife don't believe in big weddings, and total is around $20K. Now, my kids didn't know how much each other's wedding costs were, as I didn't share, and I guess they didn't see the need to bring it up. So the problem came up this past weekend. My soon-to-be daughter-in-law was talking to my daughter and my oldest son's wife about their weddings, and I guess the totals came up. Now my youngest son and his fiancée are demanding I write them a check for the difference for a down payment on a condo or house. I refused and stated I was only paying for their wedding, and now they are threatening to disinvite me. So, am I the idiot? So, it has come up, so I'm adding this here from the comments. I paid for all my kids' college costs. On top of that, they each have trust funds that got released at age 18, 25, and 35. He has more than enough for a down payment if he wants to. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Treat your children equally. Why wouldn't you? I'd say give them a wedding gift of $50,000 and let them decide if they want to stay economical and have a fabulous honeymoon or put a deposit on a home. Why penalize them for not being extravagant? Do your other kids agree they should get something more equal? If so, that's a definite you're the idiot. Otherwise, a soft everyone sucks here, since they shouldn't be threatening to disinvite you. It's a pretty daft move on their part though, because if they disinvite you, then your obvious response would be to not pay for any of it. Also, good God, $120,000 on a wedding. To be able to even consider that just blows my mind. Equality has different forms. He was treating them equally by paying for the wedding that they wanted. I tell my kids I treat them fairly, not equally. I use the analogy of dance shoes. At one point, all 3 of my kids did dance. One of my kids outgrew her dance shoes in the middle of the season. If I treated them equally, I would have bought all 3 kids new dance shoes at that moment. Instead, I treated them fairly and only bought new dance shoes for the kid that outgrew hers. This made things fair in that all 3 kids had dance shoes that fit. This dad is treating his kids fairly by paying for the weddings that they chose. He doesn't need to treat them equally. You can't keep track of every dollar you spend on your kids to make sure it is completely equal, because different kids want or need different things. You're not in the wrong. I have been paying for my children's college tuitions. My first 2 are debt-free. My third turns around and says, I don't want to go to college, I'll just take the money. I laughed. I said the money is for college and college alone. She said that's not fair. To which I said, life is not fair. Get used to it. It's your money. You get to make the decisions. Do what makes you happy. The only thing that will stop me by outright canceling the wedding is all the people whose businesses will be affected by it, as Dave already finished the preparation and the date is fast approaching. So pay the vendors and tell them to donate the food, decor, venue, etc. to a charitable organization. I work for a non-profit. Someone dropping a fully paid-for fundraiser into our lap sounds like a dream. I didn't even think of it. This might be a good option. Thank you for the advice. And now for the update. Hi everyone. I would like to thank you all for your help the other day and wanted to address a couple things. It came up that I offer my 2 oldest the option of a wedding or house down payment that had to be paid back when they got their second trust fund, and not the youngest. I wasn't trying to hide that, I just didn't see it being of any importance. You see, my son and soon-to-be daughter-in-law didn't ask me nicely for the money, but demanded it, and then gave me an ultimatum. So, I'm sorry if that affected your judgment. So on to the update. We had a family meeting Sunday night. Me, my wife, my oldest son, my daughter, and my youngest. After talking for a couple hours, we got to the heart of this. As many of you suspected, it wasn't my son doing it, but my soon-to-be daughter-in-law. She never wanted a small wedding. She dreamed of horse-drawn carriages, actually. When I think about it, she wants something like out of Cinderella, but didn't want to plan it, so when all was down and over with, they had a total of $20,000, which she thought was a lot, until she started talking to my daughter and daughter-in-law about their weddings, and realized what she could have had. After that, she pulled my son to the side and started nagging him to either postpone the wedding so they can make it bigger, which truth be told I wouldn't have minded, or demand I write them a check for down payment for a house, that my son clarified during this meeting he did not want. My son hates the idea of living in the suburbs and not living in the city, not being there for all the hottest spots, trends, bars, restaurants. He's also chosen to live a child-free life, and I'm not upset about it. So it also turns out she was the one threatening to disinvite me from the wedding, and this caused her family and friends to turn on her. My son plans to call off the wedding. He said he thought he was ready to be married, and maybe he's not mature enough yet. He apologized to me and his siblings for how all of this turned out. We're on good terms, so he doesn't have to worry about that. This was Sunday night, and as of last night, she officially moved back in with her parents who have called me to apologize. I think I'm going to go with one of the commenters' advice and donate everything we have planned for the wedding to someone else, and give all the vendors extra money for the inconvenience. When my son is ready to get married again, I will pay for whatever wedding, big or small, that he wants. So that's the update. Thank you all again. Yikes. Money is always trouble, particularly with family. At least the youngest is taking this as the red flag it is. I hope things end peacefully. I don't understand how anyone could think that giving different kids varying amounts of money was ever going to end well. If the first kid had wanted a $200,000 wedding and the second wanted a $20,000 wedding, and said to the dad, "So, can you give me the $180,000 in cash?" Or, it appears that the dad would have been like, no, we give wedding money. If you want more money from me, plan a big wedding. I got the feeling it was a learning process, and kid number 3 gets the most up-to-date version. But honestly, if the kids want a $20,000 wedding, holy crap, that's a lot of money, then they should be allowed to. It's the demanding more that makes it not good. I get the impression that if the kid had asked, there would have been something to come out of it. But per the update, the problem solved herself. Note the mention of trust funds too. It's not as though the wedding is the end of the money. If you're in line for a few million, are you really going to get upset that kid number 2 got a few thousand more for their wedding? The problem didn't solve itself. The family found a convenient scapegoat in the fiancé, but the underlying problem hasn't been resolved. OP feels comfortable supporting his kids unequally in a way that is probably hurting feelings. And I bet that if the next wedding only clocks in at $20,000, that will cause bitterness and resentment again. OP's son's fiancé was right to feel like something here was off, and the family should resolve that. I agree. The end result here is it seems like the kid is basically punished for not wanting a bigger wedding. That if he wants the same amount that was spent on his siblings, he should go for extravagance and is being actively incentivized to blow the money, as opposed to putting it towards what he really wants. At least, that is how I would feel in his shoes. Dad really should have just set aside X amount for each sibling and then let them decide how to spend it.
Answer my calls while I was in labor and my brother played a horrible prank. Now my husband is furious I won't cut him off. Original post. My husband and I got in a fight prior to my daughter's birth a week ago when he casually suggested a paternity test for our daughter when she was born. To be clear, this was completely out of the blue with no wanting or reason. I'm a homebody who works remotely with no male friends other than my brother. I told him that he was accusing me of infidelity and he said he just wanted to be sure, and kept bringing it up until I told him, after 3 days of him asking and the stress starting to make me physically ill, that I didn't want to talk to him and left to my brother's house. I called him while I was gone and tried to work it out, but he refused. After all this, I went home the next day to grab some things while he was at work, and I went into labor. I called him 16 times, before calling my brother, who called him another half a dozen times himself while on the way to pick me up, and then on the way to the hospital. It was a horrible and traumatic birth. I started crowding in the car and the doctor delivered my daughter in the back of my brother's van because I was too far along to move me, before rushing me in when I kept bleeding. It was horrible. I hated it all. My brother's wife, who is a nurse, even told me she honestly thought I wouldn't make it. I also opted for a hysterectomy as it came to that, or something more dangerous. I only ever wanted one or none, but my husband wants a large family. I'm trying to bond with my daughter, but it's been hard. The point is that during this, while I was returning from surgery 10 hours after I called, my husband finally responded and asked why I hadn't answered his call. However, my brother had my phone and was so angry that he said, "This is OP's brother, I'm at the hospital. She didn't make it," and turned it off. My husband rushed over and got there when I had just woken up, and started shouting until the security forced him out, and then didn't get to see our daughter until the next day because I was mostly asleep, and apparently they needed my signature to allow him back. My sister-in-law thinks it was horribly cruel, but that he deserved it. But my brother stands by his prank, and says that he only gave my husband 10 minutes of the same fear he had felt at my side for 10+ hours. Whenever he sees my husband, he also keeps telling him that I nearly died because we waited for him. My brother used to be mostly indifferent to my husband, but now he absolutely hates him. You can see it in his face whenever my husband enters the room. And he's been visiting a lot because he doesn't trust my husband to care for me while I'm still healing. My husband is furious that he won't apologize, and that I won't make him, and yelled at me when I said that the only reason my brother had my phone was because he wasn't there. I am trying to be empathetic. I know he feels guilty. I've spoken to my therapist, and she says the apathy I'm feeling is likely general and not solely focused on him, from lingering shock from the trauma, but didn't say much about the prank. My mother-in-law has been texting me to say that my family is horribly cruel for the prank, and that I should go no contact with my brother. And now my husband is saying the same. I just don't know what to do. I'm not in a good headspace. It's been hard to be in the same room with my husband, and I've been sleeping in the guest room with my daughter. He brought up the paternity once, and I just exhaustedly told him to either get out of my face or go stay with his mom if he's planning on stressing me out even more. I really don't feel myself. And yes, I am taking the likelihood of PPD seriously, and my therapist who has suggested that it may be PTSD too. However, I just want more opinions because I just don't know. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Your husband is scary. All of this started because he suddenly doubted the paternity of his child and refused to back down. That's an interesting behavior, given that he has no reason to doubt you. Either he's projecting his own cheating onto you, or the realities of being a parent momentarily freaked him out. My money is on the former. Why? Because he didn't answer your calls, and he didn't care when the chips were down. You almost died. That's serious. Was your brother out of line? Yeah, a little. Under different circumstances, what he did would have been inexcusable, but obviously your husband needed some kind of wake-up call, and you almost did die because of his behavior. If you want to save this marriage, he has a lot of work to do. But to be honest, between his accusations, his subsequent temper tantrums, and now his attempts to isolate you from your family, he does not sound worthy of your love. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I was going to say that my money is on the husband projecting his own infidelity. Even if that's not the case though, he's shown his true nature. When people show themselves to you, believe them. Not only was he not there for you when you nearly died, he has doubled down on his behavior. He is still insisting on a paternity test, still bucking the blame, and continuing to re-traumatize you with his behavior. Do not let this man isolate you from your family. As far as your brother goes, I would have done the same. Normally a prank like that couldn't be justified, but he was likely traumatized himself having just been through that nightmare with you, and rightfully furious with your husband. Thank God for your brother looking out for you honestly. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Pregnant and postpartum women are unbelievably subject to elevated levels of mistreatment and DV. Escape this situation while you can, for yourself and for your baby. Her husband didn't get a wake-up call or realize that his wife probably would have died delivering his child, had her brother not stepped up like he spectacularly failed to do. Instead, he is painting himself as the victim. I'm sorry, after everything that happened, your husband still brought up the paternity test after you gave birth. Christ on a bike, hun, you have so much reason to divorce this guy. What your brother did was pretty horrible, but honestly under the circumstances, I kind of don't blame him. Your husband is self-centered on the extreme and his selfishness put your life in danger. Your brother acted badly towards your husband, but was there for you in your time of need and has continued to show up for you since then. Your turd-bag husband was nowhere to be found, and instead of giving you an abject, groveling apology for how he let you down, he's doubled down on this paternity test BS, and is demanding you cut off a loving, supportive family member when you've just survived a traumatic birth. Who the heck does he think he is? Honestly, I wouldn't listen to anything your mother-in-law says. She raised this idiot. She probably wants you to make up so she doesn't have to take him back at home. But after everything that happened, I don't know if it's worth even trying to forgive him. And he's certainly not acting like someone who thinks his actions need forgiveness. Oh, and you don't need to extend empathy to him because he feels guilty. He should feel guilty. And instead of apologizing for his actions, he's lashing out at his traumatized postpartum wife. What an absolute trash. Congratulations on your daughter. I hope you will treat yourself with the respect you would want her to have in this situation. This is the best response. OP, please take your kid and go to your brother's house. Please. This whole situation is a mess. Don't cut your family out of your life. And now for the update. I can't update the old post, but since so many people reached out, I thought I'd make a new one. So, I don't think this will be something we can come back from. I just don't think I'll be able to heal with him, because there is no way he didn't know it was me calling, and he still hasn't told me why he didn't answer. I know I thought I wouldn't decide right away, but I actually don't want to forget how terrible it was waiting on him, thinking he couldn't possibly leave me like that no matter how angry he was. I took the time to think of that moment before it all went down, and just how grossly betrayed and scared and alone I felt while the contractions were hitting, and I was on my knees trying to breathe through the pain while waiting on the phone while it rang through. And I just don't think there's any coming back from that. I wouldn't want my daughter to think it's okay to stay with a man who destroyed her trust that way either. I will be contacting an attorney, and will be meeting with them in the coming weeks. We had a prenup, so it hopefully won't be too hellish, I hope. I feel like this situation became even clearer when my friend asked me if I'd still trust him as the one to sign off on my medical papers, and the reaction to that idea was visceral. I wouldn't, and I want him to get off that legality as soon as possible. In fact, there are roommates I had in college I would trust more. I would have never ignored so many calls from him consecutively, unless I had told him expressly that I was unavailable at a specific time, and even then. I feel good with my brother and sister-in-law here with me, especially so with her being a nurse and having been there through childbirth. It's really helped us bond in a way that we'd never really had time to. I've also finally told my old friends about the baby, and they are alternating to come and help me out for the next little while. None of this even touched the paternity test, but I'll get it for the proceedings, I guess, so I guess he'll get what he wanted. Anyway, I'm safe and well, and my daughter is healthy and happy as a peach, and pretty much an angel who is happy to sleep peacefully anywhere and took to breastfeeding with ease, which is such a blessing since everything still hurts. Just making this decision has taken an odd weight off my shoulders, and my sister-in-law has been really helping us bond. Anyway, thank you for letting me write this out. I'm not good with diaries or journals, but writing to people feels different, and it's actually brilliant for the clarity of the situation. Even my therapist said that I seemed clearer and calmer. I might try a diary again as she suggested. I'm sorry, but also not. This is the best outcome. You and your daughter deserve better. I feel about the same, like I really wish this hadn't happened, but I know in my gut there's no moving on from it, if that makes sense. Have you thought about if he was cheating and that's why he didn't answer? I actually know someone this almost same situation happened to. He asked for paternity test because he was cheating, and paranoid that she was too. He was with the mistress when she went into labor too, and ignored calls. Also, have you been home with him or staying elsewhere? I looked at the original post and this one. Did your husband ever say why he didn't answer? No, it's one of the things that added to this decision. He's been completely mum on it, and is just saying he didn't see them. For what it's worth, I'm not even judging your brother. Your soon-to-be ex-husband deserved it. I already feel so ridiculous even contemplating cutting him off. I didn't tell him, but I still feel as though I should apologize. What your husband was doing was abusive, and he tried to take advantage of you even further by trying to manipulate you into cutting off your brother during a time when you were already mentally and physically traumatized, and not in a place to make rational decisions. Please divorce him as soon as possible and move on with your life. He was trying to permanently cut OP off from her support. The two people who dropped everything to be there for her in her hours of need, just like he should have been. What he did was unforgivable, and if I was the brother, I would act and say the same. He deserved the 10 minutes of pain and panic. The fear he still hasn't told OP where he was for 10+ hours, and the paternity question out of the blue makes me think he's projecting and has cheated himself. Hence, he can't admit where he was. What is or who is more important than his wife and child? Now for the last story. My husband is berating me for not defending him on our wedding day. I am now considering divorcing my husband over this catastrophe, because he and his groomsmen decided to prank me. For background, we have been dating since I joined my nursing career 3 years ago. He was related to a patient and my husband wanted to get drinks with me, We hit it off. But now I'm here, crying in my dressing gown. My brother is a baker. He's quite popular around town for how good his cakes are. And as his little sister, he decided to bake me and my husband a wedding cake for free. Even though his wife just gave birth to triplets, he still chose to bake us a beautiful wedding cake. So we will call this brother Ben. And then my other brother is an event planner, and since he is also pretty wealthy, he decided to cut slack and charged me far less. Since he quotes, "I know you the most, don't worry." My brother took the reins on my wedding day and made sure it went well, and made it like I was a queen. I'll call my oldest brother Peter. First red flag of the day, while standing at the altar, he looks like he's high, as he's slouching on the priest. I could almost hear my mum rolling in the grave. Second was when he kept complaining to Peter about how the flowers looked hideous and that he's disgraceful. I remind my husband that he should be thankful that Peter listened to our wishes and that he tried to make our wedding as nice as possible. My husband just rolled his eyes and went off to get drunk. I'm sitting there annoyed, but I'm like, he's probably scared, so I'll give him time. He doesn't though. He does at the cake though. That has me thinking he's easing up. So, when the groomsmen got behind us, I thought we were getting our pictures taken. So that also made me think my bridesmaids are behind me. Nope. The minute my dear old dad tries to take his phone out for a photo, I'm grabbed by the shoulders by the guys and am slammed onto the cake. My head goes through the cake like butter. My dress and face are now covered, and I now want to hide and cry. Hellfire kicks loose. Peter, Dad, my bodybuilder bridesmaid, my Uncle Henry and Gary, and my Nan start kicking out the groomsmen, while I'm crying and holding on to Ben as my husband is yelling at me. Most of my husband's side start laughing at the whole thing, and never have I been more traumatized in my life. After I got myself cleaned up in the toilet, I went into my wedding to see my husband wrecking the decor, and mine and his family are now screaming at one another. I hated that day, but I'm glad my family and friends stuck up for me. I don't feel guilty about what happened on our special day, but my husband is trying to ban me from seeing my brothers and dad, and that if I try and see them, I'm an awful woman. Because apparently I was terrible at our wedding because I made the day all about me. Even though Peter asked him for his input into the wedding and my husband just shrugged. I'm in desperate need of advice if I should even try and reconcile a relationship with him. I'm 75% leaving him. I just have a lot of doubt and am embarrassed that my marriage is ending before it began. But if anyone could please put their input in the comments if I should stay with him or sack him off. Thank you for giving me your time. Now for the advice. How did your relationship get as far as getting married? That sounds absolutely awful, and I feel terrible for you. He's humiliated you in front of your closest family and friends on what's supposed to be the best day of your lives. Do not let him cut you off from the people who supported you through that. Examples of emotional mistreatment from this post alone. Criticizing, and then destroying, everything she planned for the wedding. Publicly humiliating her. Violating her boundaries. Dismissing her feelings. Twisting reality to make it seem like she was the one that ruined the wedding instead of him. Isolating her from her friends and family. And I'm positive this is far from the first time he's been controlling/manipulative/abusive. His groomsmen physically attacked you, and he's mad at you. You should absolutely leave for your safety right away. I'm glad you have supportive friends and family. And here I thought my wedding was a crap show. OP, I got married at 29, and my marriage lasted 9 months. Go get this annulled. Our lives are too short to be stuck with someone like my ex-wife or like your newly minted husband. He literally ruined your wedding day, not you. Do not be ashamed, and your family sounds like a good lot. Thank you, I'm glad you were in a similar situation as me so you can give me advice, but I'm also not glad since I know that feeling. I'm sorry about your past marriage. My ex-wife was super disrespectful to my parents and my family the whole time I was with her. I had the blinders on the whole time. At my wedding, her dad recalled how he didn't give me his blessing, and this and that, about why I'm not good enough for her. Which obviously pales in comparison in your wedding, which I'm terribly sorry that you had to go through. I put a lot of thought in ending it before it even started. Litany of issues also factored, but I wish I would have pulled the plug that day. But I didn't, and 9 months later I was barely a person. Then my ex-wife cheated on me and I saw the light. A lot like what you witnessed at your wedding showed you the light on the person you're with. And now he wants to control when you can see your family. Nope. He showed you his true colors. We're not here long enough to live in constant chaos and the horrible things people do. You're right, I deserve better and I'm not gonna let him get the best of me. I need some perspective, plus updates. Original post. I'll try to keep this as short as possible and keep out details that aren't needed. By pure accident, I was signed into my wife's Google account. Went to check a text from my cousin, but it was her account instead. I found and read every text regarding the whole thing from the very beginning. It started in early November. She posted an ad on Craigslist to have no strings attached meetups. I had a planned business trip in December and she was planning this all to happen then, while I was out of town. She posted 2 different ads. The first one was to have fun with a couple/3 something. That never happened. The second ad summarized, written as it was, you would come into the house, it would be dark, you would go into the bedroom and have your way with me. I want to be mistreated, used, and left satisfied. I want it rough, slight choking, slapping my behind, etc. Confirmed 2 different men did my wife. I know she went down on them as well. She sent and received many private pictures with many other men and women. In some of the texts, she says this would be an ongoing thing as I usually leave for a few days every month or every other month. This was the first time. We have only been married a little over a year. We dated 3 years before getting married. She explains to some of the men that she has only had boring intimacy with me for the last 4 years. After I found out and recorded everything, saved web pages, screenshots, took notes, etc. I took a shower because I felt dirty and disgusted. I then confronted her about it. She did not deny anything, says she still loves me and that we can work it out. She's willing to sacrifice anything to make it work. But I just packed up my stuff and left. Right now I'm living at my dad's. My gut instinct is to get my own place, wait a few weeks to clear my head, and then file for divorce. I'm disgusted by the whole thing. All I can think about are the details in some of the texts. My imagination is getting to me. My parents are the only ones who know as of right now. My mom agrees with me and thinks I should just leave. My dad, having experienced being cheated on as well, is telling me to wait a bit, clear my head, talk to her, and see what happens then. Guys, I need some perspective from you. I need advice from people who don't know me. Please tell me what you honestly think. I'm 30 and I feel like my life is freaking crushed. All of the plans we had, house, kids, career, I feel like that has all been taken away from me. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Emotional stuff. This is going to be awful for a while. The first time you get cheated on by someone you really love, especially when you feel blindsided by it, is positively earth-shattering. It's going to take a while to get over this, but I promise you will come out the other side. While this experience will change you, your experience of it will change over time as well. It takes time, and it takes the support of people you trust. Cold hard facts. 1. This was deliberate. It was planned. It was not a one-time drunken mistake that happened while you were away. When her plan first failed, she didn't miss a beat and tried again. This represents a clear, selfish desire on her part to have the flings she wants to have, while keeping the emotional security and financial support that you provide. You and your wife have diametrically opposed ideas of what love and respect are. She probably did love you at some point, and she still may in her own really messed up way, I have no idea. But you two absolutely do not share the same idea of what that love is, and a marriage can't work that way. 2. You are married, not just cohabitating. Keep the record you have of everything that happened. If you get divorced, this will be important. 3. If your wife was unhappy with your intimate life, it is her responsibility to communicate to you what she wants. She did not do this. I don't know you, and I know this is going to sound weird, but I'm sure you do it just fine. Your wife would have been bored doing it with an Italian bedroom god, and would have cheated on him with some Craigslist meetup. I can tell that these intimate details are really getting to you, and believe me, I know it hurts, but at the end of the day, she's the one who failed to give herself what she wanted, not you. Your wife screwed this up, not you. 4. You can still have the plans you want. You can still have a house, kids, a career, and a marriage. It just may be with someone else. You are still young, and when you realize that you can survive this, you'll realize just how great a guy your wife missed out on. You are not a screw-up for having tried to work towards your dreams and have them not realized. You are a braver person than your wife. 5. Your wife may never really appreciate just how badly she hurt you. She may not understand it. She may not even care. She may beg your forgiveness. Even if she ends up a broken person living on the street because of this, there is nothing in the way that she feels that will eventually determine how you end up feeling. You will be rightfully angry over all this, maybe for a long time, but it does go away. It does get replaced with something better. 6. Find some real friends you can talk to about this. You will need them. There are just some things you can't really talk to your parents about, no matter who you are. If the internet helps you right now, that's okay, but you will need someone in person to talk to about this, or you will not heal. 7. If you decide to work things out, and I admit, that seems almost impossible with these set of facts, remember number 1. You are not to blame here. If you try to work things out, see a professional. Don't try to work things out if you're the one that's coming up with the idea. If she doesn't want to try, you're just going to waste your time, your money, and your sanity. Do not agree to any plan one way or the other for the first couple of weeks. You need time to clear your head, but don't keep this bottled up inside. Tell her to get the heck out and stay somewhere else while you get past the initial hurt. This was the first time. This was not the first time. Your wife did it with multiple people on separate occasions. She was exchanging intimate pictures with strangers. None of this with your knowledge or your consent, tacit or explicit. By definition, her behavior didn't just start and stop at one incident. Your wife may not have cheated on you before all this happened, but the seeds of the behavior that led her to do this have been present for a long time, and I will bet that she had issues with infidelity in prior relationships. It's not your fault for seeing it. Most people don't see this until it's already happened. Good luck, dude. All this, and I know from experience. Last year I divorced my wife of 13 years after finding pretty much the exact same things. Only difference being I'm 47 and we have 2 kids, 5 and 8. I divorced her, took the house and kid, and she's now renting a crap hole and still thinks she did nothing wrong. Her words. Damn dude, sorry about that. Hopefully someday she'll grow the heck up. Good luck to you and the kids. Glad you kept everything. Edit. I'd like to thank you all for the advice in the comments. It is helping me a lot. I'm going to a doctor today to get a full STD test. She is making it hard for me though. I do love her, more than anything. At least I did. I'm just so sad, hurt, and angry, but she really wants to work it out. Sorry, I'm not looking for pity. I need and appreciate your perspectives. Edit 2. I'd just like to thank everyone again. It has been 24 hours now since I made this post and I feel a lot better about my decisions. I'm still reading all of the comments and I appreciate all of the PM people have sent. I feel so hurt, empty, and angry right now. I miss my dogs, and I'm trying to see if I can afford to get an apartment this weekend so I can get them back. Right now, I'm removing my name from all of our accounts. I'm separating everything I can from her. Thank you again for all of your advice and perspectives. It has made things easier for me. I'll post another update soon. Now for the first full update. First, I want to thank everyone for their advice, comments, and everything else. Second, I need to explain something to everyone. You always read how people find out about their spouse or girlfriend/boyfriend cheating, and the immediate Reddit hive mind is to lawyer up, hit the gym, and so on. But you need to know it is not as easy as that. This is the person I've loved for a good chunk of my life. The love I have for that person doesn't just immediately go away. I will say my love changed on a certain level that I can't explain. With that said, it has been 6 days since I found out. I've talked to her multiple times and we've talked through text and through email and also in person. It is very hard to throw away your entire life that you've built with someone, to throw away all of the lifelong plans you had together, career, house, kids, and so on. Also, I can tell she actually regrets it, and I know she is sorry. But I can never trust her again. I will always wonder whenever she gets a text or whenever I leave out of town for a few days, if she'll be screwing some random guy again. I just cannot live with that for the rest of my life. I deserve better. What I've done. Found my own apartment. I move in tomorrow and get my dogs back. Sold my car. I'm very sad about this, but I can't afford to keep my science payment. So things are starting to look up. I don't want anything we bought together or anything to remind me of her. I'm basically moving into an empty apartment with only a couch I got for free from my work and my computer desk and chair. I'll just slowly start buying things, which now I can afford without my car payment. She cries when we talk and it makes me sad. I'm sad for our broken relationship and I'm also sad for her because I feel like she really does regret it all. This has been the most difficult thing I have ever had to deal with. I feel like I have 2 paths in front of me that will affect my life forever. On one path, I can take her back, give her a second chance. That will then fork into either her doing it again and me regretting the decision, or it will fork into us having a great marriage forever. The other path is me moving on with my life and not looking back. It is hard to know what decision is the right one. I wish I could see myself 20 years from now and be able to tell. If I knew without a doubt that she would never hurt me again, and that our marriage would work, I think I would do it. So there you have it. Thanks again for all of your support, Reddit. Me typing all of this out and getting it off my chest is some sort of therapy, and it makes me feel better. I'm not looking for pity or anything, just telling a friend about life. Now for more advice before the final update. You guys were only married for a year before she decided to cheat on you. Not a drunken accident cheat, but deliberately set out to cheat on you. Move on, it's what's best. It really is what's best. It will take a while, but after you start to rebuild your life, you'll start to become interested in dating again. You may have trouble putting trust in another woman, but it will be a lot easier than trying to repair what your wife did to your relationship. I've been through this myself. If your situation is anything like mine, you'll be happier too. It really gives you some perspective on life. I'm rooting for you, friend. She is obviously only upset because you found out. If she had gotten away with it, there would be no remorse. This is something my dad would always say whenever he caught me sneaking back in the house or playing Mortal Kombat with blood on high. I vehemently told him I was truly sorry. Turns out, he was right. She lost her chance for forgiveness when she decided that it was a good idea to do multiple guys behind your back while married to you. Bored in the bedroom, act like a human being and talk about it. This isn't high school or college. You want to take the easy way out. You accept the fact that if you get caught, you forfeit the trust and the relationship. Looking forward, I do have some advice. Having been in your shoes, do not, under any circumstances, let your lack of trust in this woman project forward onto any women you meet in the future. It's hard to leave the past in the past and realize that not all women are going to betray your trust. But you have to approach the next woman as if she had nothing to do with this, because she didn't. It took me a long time to learn that, and as such took me a long time to get back into a relationship, much longer than I would have liked. Also, scotch, cigars and friends. Also billiards, but that's a matter of taste. You know who else turned their life around after his significant other cheated on him with a lot of cigars and scotch? Barney Stinson. She regrets getting caught and missing out on all the things you provided for her. It's not like in this situation things went a little too far with a male friend. She was posting ads on Craigslist. Yeah, she had to post the ads then wait for replies, so it's not like she didn't have time to think about what she was doing. That shows a complete disregard for OP and their relationship, and the fact that she did it a second time makes it that much worse. Edit, I just wanted to thank everyone again for your responses. I received tons of PMs that I am still reading, but I promise to read every comment and PM, although I don't think I'll have enough time to respond to them all. One thing I've learned from all the PMs I've read is that I am not alone, and cheating seems to be very common. The situations all differ, but it seems the emotional damage is almost always the same. Thank you for sharing your personal stories with me. They really do help. Right now, I'm just taking it day by day, and I hope my real-life karma turns around soon. Now for the final update. It has been about 3 months since my last update. This will be my final update, but I'll still check the inbox. I can't believe how many messages I received, and I thank you all for them. I'll get right to it. We are getting divorced. It was a very hard decision, and it took me 2 months to really figure it all out. But in the end, I know it is the best thing for me to do. I saw her a few times, but my feelings and love for her has drastically changed. I still love her, but I'm not in love with her anymore. I finally told her this about a week ago. She suspected this was going to be the result, so it wasn't a huge deal. It was weird. I had some gut feeling to check Craigslist, and I see an ad posted by her. It wasn't a no-strings-attached ad, just a regular dating ad. This was before we had talked about divorce, and it just jarred me. I told her I wanted a divorce the next day. We're both sad. I'm very sad. I don't think I'm really depressed, but I can't stop thinking about what we could have had. I had so many dreams in life planned out, and now I've got to start all over. But things are looking good, and I'm being as positive as I can. I've reconnected with friends from years ago that my now ex-wife stopped me from seeing, and it is making things much easier. Besides being sad, I feel good about life, and looking forward to being with someone else again in the future. My issue, which I'll probably have for the rest of my life, will be trust. I never would have imagined my ex-wife cheating on me, and I can't help but think I'll be suspicious and cautious now. I still hope to have kids one day and have a happy life. I just hope my trust issue won't prevent that. I don't really know what else to say in this post. I wish I had some words of wisdom or something meaningful to share. Hopefully this is closure for anyone who read my other posts. It is closure for me. Once the divorce is final, I'll never speak to her again. Thanks again for your support, guys. I really appreciate all the comments and messages. I went through the same thing. My ex-wife did something pretty messed up though. She was doing some do while I was on deployment. I did not realize it until my neighbor told me she had seen some guy staying overnight constantly. I confronted her about it and she confessed, so I forgave her. Big mistake. My next deployment, I got a Dear John letter. So, I get back and find the divorce papers. Well, she wanted to get alimony out of me. Except she didn't realize that in the state of Florida, you need to have kids or have been married at least 10 years to get alimony. So naturally, I fought the divorce down to a quick, no money for anyone divorce. Needless to say, she was angry. My good buddy told me she was planning on using the money I would have given her for a wedding in some chapel in Jax. So, she was angry. Anyways, after the divorce was finalized, I found out she got married 10 days later to that same guy. Here's the funny part though. Because she didn't get any money from me, she didn't get her dream wedding she wanted me to pay for, and now her dip-dirt husband is stuck in Korea thanks to the army for a year, plus she's flat broke, living in a crappy trailer home. Karma's a witch, ain't it? She even had the nerve to ask me to loan her some money for food. Needless to say, I declined, but as a sign of goodwill, sent her a box of cream corn. She hates cream corn. Victory achieved. Long story short, your divorce, as tough as it is for the best. You'll be depressed for a bit. Hell, I was. But my divorce was in December. It's now May, and I feel pretty damn good. Just keep your chin up and talk to your family if you need to. Trust me. Who the heck knew that cream corn would be the dish best served cold? Excellent. Damn dude, sounds like a classic uniform chaser. I know it's tough to see in the thick of it, but looking back, were there any obvious signs she was like that before you first deployed? None at all. She was apparently really good at hiding her true nature. Either that, or I was just too naive to notice any signs. I can tell you're making the right decision just by this sentence. I've reconnected with friends from years ago that my ex-wife stopped me from seeing. The Craigslist ad did it for me. His situation was worse than he's making it out to be. It was over no matter what. Gah, I used to love Craigslist for the cool things people get rid of. Once I discovered that my spouse had been soliciting himself on there, I could never enjoy browsing the sales section again. It beyond sucks. For 2 years unknowingly started an emotional affair with a coworker, and he details how he started feeling that he was losing his wife to this other man, and what he did to nip an affair in the making before it fully destroyed their loving marriage. Now for the original post. I've learned a lot in the last couple of years. My wife and I have been married a long time. Married at 19 years old, still married and in love at 51 years old. Raised 3 great kids to adulthood in that time. Great life together. Sometimes, however, I think someone can meet another person they just click with in an unbelievable way. I think this happened to my wife. We had moved 1,000 miles away from our hometown for my work. She got a job at a hospital in the new town and hated the job. For the first 3 years there, she absolutely hated going to work every day. She would cry regularly. I was there for her in any way she needed. I helped her with her resume because she wanted to find something else. I gave her a shoulder to cry on. I listened and sympathized when she vented. I love her with all my heart and will always be there for her. After about 3 years, they hired a new guy at her work. He did the same kind of work she did but for another department in the hospital. He's a really nice guy. I've met him multiple times. Anyway, he was closer to all the BS they had to put up with at their jobs. He understood better than I could. He spent more time with her than I could. If you're employed full-time, you spend more time with your job and coworkers than you do your family. That's a fact. He was instrumental in helping her turn the job around. He understood exactly what they were going through better than I ever could. Misery loves company, and now my wife had company. They started working as a team and the job got better for both of them. I could see them growing closer professionally, but then it transcended work and they started growing closer as friends outside work, and we all know where that can lead. I started to become really concerned about this, but never wanted to look like an insecure, jealous husband, so I let it go. They texted regularly and hung out together at work all day long. They were the only 2 people in their office. They shared an office, so they chit-chatted all day. I could see their relationship growing every day right in front of my eyes. My wife and I are as close as any 2 human beings can be, but I saw that this relationship at work was starting to impact our me and you against the world closeness. There was a third person entering into my marriage, even though it was currently still at the very early innocent stages. I started to bring up that I was concerned about it, and that I didn't like how she was acting around another man. That would get shut down on me. Don't be silly, we're just friends and coworkers. He has a fiancé, or he's the one person that has made this job bearable, and you want me to ignore him. It was just an awful situation all the way around. I really didn't know what to do. My own field is very specialized and lucrative. As luck would have it, or God stepped in, or karma, or fate, or the universe, whatever is your bag, I get a call from a headhunter. A place in our hometown was looking for a new C-level executive to run an entire division. Huge job, huge salary, in our hometown. I really loved what I was doing in my current job, and now my wife loved her job and her coworker, and we loved the new town. Usually that would lead me to say thanks, but no thanks to the headhunter. This time, however, I saw it as an opportunity to make a positive impact on my marriage. My wife couldn't argue the opportunity. It was huge and almost doubled my salary. We have family and friends back in our hometown. I could tell she was absolutely heartbroken over the potential of losing this new best friend, that I know in my heart they were both developing real feelings for each other. I know in my heart that my wife loved this man. I know that she still loved me, and I don't think she would have ever cheated or left me for this guy, but I know I was slowly losing her to him. She didn't act on anything, but there was something growing between them. I could tell when we all got together that his fiancée hated my wife, even though they had never met before, so that told me that she could sense a threat to her relationship too, and didn't like it one bit. So I applied, interviewed, got offered, and accepted this job. In my heart, I'd say only 10% of it was because of the opportunity, and 90% of it was to get my wife away from her job and that person. We moved. She hated leaving that job and her buddy. I could tell she was sad and depressed over the loss of this other man in her life. I knew in my heart they were having a full-on emotional affair, even if both of them were not aware of it. A lot of times that is how these things start. One or both parties aren't even consciously aware of what's happening, until it's too late and they've ruined some lives. I know this might not be an ideal way to handle such a situation, but it worked. My wife found a new job back home. We're back in our old social circle of friends and family. For a few months they would message on Facebook occasionally. Nothing bad, she'd always show me, but they were maintaining their connection. But that stopped months ago. Out of sight, out of mind. They don't communicate at all anymore. He has since married his fiancée, and my wife and I are very happy back home again. I could literally feel the change, and one day while we were sitting on the couch watching Fixer Upper, her head was on my shoulder. She looked up and said, "I love you so much. I know for a while in the previous city that I wasn't being the best partner, but I was so miserable in my job and part of me blamed you for moving me there." Coworker was really like a wartime buddy, where you share the same horrible experience with, so you start bonding with them. But in retrospect, I think it was wrong and I shouldn't have done that. I'm so sorry if it hurt your feelings. I'll never do anything like that again. You're the love of my life. All is well that ends well. I love my wife with all my heart. She loves me. We'll be together until one of us dies of old age. There's a good chance I would have taken this job anyway because it's such a good opportunity. But at that time, that's not why I took it. I took it because I had a threat to my marriage, the thing that is most important to me in life, and I saw an opportunity to remove the threat from the equation. I took that opportunity and won't ever apologize for why I did it. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Wow, I really applaud your maturity and how you handled this. Thank you. It was the scariest time in my life, far scarier than when I was diagnosed with testicular cancer. My marriage is the most important thing in the world to me. The thought of how far this threat could go was keeping me up at night and terrifying me. I can appreciate that not everybody would have an opportunity fall in their lap to correct a situation like this, but I would still warn people who value their marriage, if you see a threat developing, do whatever you have to do to nip it in the bud. I'm glad that it worked out for you. It was big of your wife to admit her part in it. Sadly, I think this happens too easily. It's super easy to be charming and fun with someone that you don't have to handle life's true challenges with. People lose sight of that. Literally just went through a scenario like this, but didn't get that convenient opportunity you did. We weren't legally married, but mentally we were. 8 years together and could have gone 80 without making it legal. It didn't matter to us. Just like you, I saw it coming, talked to her about it, and she always downplayed it, kept my cool, and tried to be mature about it. She left me for him 3 weeks ago. I'm so happy that it worked out for you and your wife. Timing is everything. This needs to be seen more. If you feel threatened and jealousy was never an issue with you before, there's usually a reason for it. Don't let them downplay it, because it can only end badly. I agree in not letting them downplay it. If it's a concern, then they could at least respect why you feel that way and acknowledge it. I get the part of not wanting to come across as jealous, but we all get jealous on some level. It's only natural. In the end, people are going to do what people want to do. I lean on the side that says, if a person truly cares about you and loves you the way they say they do, then they would not go and explore romantic emotions with someone else while still being with you. If that is what they want, then that's within their right. The problem arises when they do it while the other person believes they are still in a committed relationship. This is an awful display of character in my opinion. It's okay to have friends and other support systems outside of your own marriage. I believe it's healthy. It's good to have other perspectives and other support circles. But it seems like OP's wife was exploring emotional and possible romantic replacement of the OP while telling him it's nothing to worry about. What's to say she won't resort to this again? I don't think OP should have let it slide as easily. Had he not moved away, she most likely would have continued it. This is a red flag in my opinion. Like I said, people are going to do what they want to do. Her actions are concerning for their marriage and it allows for untrust in the relationship. And now for the update. Far too many posts to respond to. My wife and I are reading through this thread together. We do everything together. We're a team. She wanted me to add for anyone that might be in her shoes, that sometimes you really don't see things like this coming. But if you're not vigilant, you may end up ruining the best part of your life. She's as happy as I am how everything turned out. We're not really religious people, but I'd be lying if I didn't say that this situation didn't make me question if there isn't someone out there watching out for us, and to be aware when God, the universe, whatever, presents a solution to a problem. Don't ignore it. I do know that I was extremely lucky that this opportunity came along. I really didn't know what to do. I felt so helpless. That doesn't happen for a lot of people and my heart breaks for them. I'll never stop being thankful of how lucky I was. There were a lot of assumptions made in this thread about me, about my wife, and about our whole lives together. Some good, some bad, some downright nasty. I understand that you're only getting a tiny slice of our lives. I assure you we're happily married 32 years now, and will be married till death do us part, hopefully even beyond that. Would either of us do whatever is necessary to protect our marriage from any and all negative influences in this world? You betcha. My wife tells this story more than I do. She has told it to our adult children as a cautionary tale. She has said if the situation was reversed, she'd do the exact same thing. I wouldn't be angry if she did. I've had several close female friends over the decades we've been married. When my wife picks up a vibe that one of these women may have desired more than friendship, she voiced her concerns. A couple times that was met with, "Don't be silly, we're just friends." In retrospect, my wife was not being silly. Those friendships could have been a threat to the marriage, but we'll never know because we nipped them in the bud and put our marriage first. All I can wish anyone here is to find the same kind of happiness my wife and I share. It's wonderful and I hope if you don't already have it, that you find it. Peace. Now for the last story. Update. I, 24 male, am worried that my sister, 26 female, has feelings for my girlfriend, 24 female. Original post. My girlfriend and I have been together for 2.5 years, and we have a really great relationship. My sister and I have always been close, so I was really happy when she and girlfriend met and hit it off right away. They get along insanely well and it's awesome, or was awesome. It might be important to point out that they are both bi. Everything was normal up until about 3 months ago. They started hanging out together more often than usual, taking day trips and having sleepovers, and going for dinner, etc. I didn't care about it initially. I thought it was cool that the two most important women in my life were such good friends. Then my sister Amy started making comments saying that if we ever broke up, she's first in line to date my girlfriend Emily. She calls Emily her wifey and follows her around like a lost puppy. Amy says that Emily is our girlfriend, and I swear she gets jealous when I interact with her. Then last week, I got home from work and as I walked through the door, I could hear them chatting in the living room. This isn't out of the ordinary. It was what I heard that really bothered me. My sister said, "Holy heck, I have such a crush on you," in the most lustful voice I've ever heard. I really hated typing that. Emily laughed and their conversation moved on, but it really didn't sit well with me, so later on I asked Emily what they were talking about. I think context is important. She told me that they went shopping earlier in the day and were doing a little fashion show for each other. She said that those kinds of comments are normal between girlfriends, and it's nothing to worry about. It made sense to me and I trust Emily. I decided to talk to Amy. I asked how their shopping spree went and so on, and then gently asked her what the crush comment was about. She got very defensive and accused me of being jealous of her relationship with Emily, then told me to grow the heck up. I'm not worried about Emily doing anything behind my back to betray me, and I never have. There's just something about the way my sister is acting that irks me, and I don't know how to approach this without blowing up any of our relationships. Now for the advice before reading the update. Okay, well, be prepared because no matter what, you are gonna hurt some feelings. There is no gentle way. She calls Emily her wifey and follows her around like a lost puppy. Amy says that Emily is our girlfriend, and I swear she gets jealous when I interact with her. Talk to your girlfriend about it, and say your sister is jealous. Say your sister sees her as our girlfriend and that you are not okay with that. Talk about less hanging out with your sister, and do not back down, and see what happens. Basically, tell her what you wrote in this post. To your sister, say that you don't like it and be stern. Tell her to only come over if you are around. Wish you the best. This situation is crazy. If either one of them does not accept your boundaries, it is time to break off with one of them. I agree. Doesn't matter that it's your sister, your girlfriend is flirting with her and not maintaining platonic boundaries. Maybe sis feels like a safe flirt, but that doesn't matter. And no, girls don't say that to each other unless they are interested. Tell your girlfriend how uncomfortable you are, and if she is unwilling to change her behavior with your own sister, then she doesn't care about your feelings enough to make it work anyway. Why am I having flashbacks to that one post on AITA about a girl being absolutely mad her boyfriend and her twin brother were actually together all the time, and used her as a shield by the boyfriend dating her for years and not telling her? I have a bad feeling OP. I remember that story. That poor girl dated the guy for like 7 or 9 years before finding out the truth. Imagine that. Broke my heart to read that. And they lived together and had talked about marriage and kids more than once. It was just plain cruel. There's a special place in hell for cruel guys like her brother and cheater boyfriend. And now for the update. There have been some developments. When I got home from work yesterday evening, I found the two of them on the couch in the living room watching a movie. I decided that I should just get it over with, so I sat down in the seat across from them and said that the three of us needed to have a talk. I basically just asked them if there was something going on between them, and mentioned how much extra time they've been spending together, and acting almost like they're dating. My sister immediately started sobbing, and Emily just looked really sad. Amy couldn't speak through her tears, so Emily filled me in. Turns out Amy has been going through a really bad breakup, and not taking it well. Amy's boyfriend cheated on her with multiple women and gave her an STD. I guess it ended in a big blowout and he trashed her place and threw her around. 3 months ago, Emily noticed that something was wrong and asked her what was up while they were out for lunch. Amy couldn't hold back and spilled all that happened to Emily, and then begged her not to tell me anything until she decided what she wanted to do. Emily started staying over at her place for a few reasons, helping her fix up her home, support, etc. Then Amy found out that she's pregnant with this asshole's baby and her mental health plummeted. Their extra hangouts were mostly to do with preparing for this new baby, pregnancy, including the fashion show which was maternity wear, for both of them. What I was perceiving as jealousy from Amy was actually a longing or envy of the solid relationship that Emily and I have, not an actual crush on Emily. The crush comment and wifey nickname were literally just girly comments in their words. Amy was reactive to my questioning because she was so deeply betrayed by this guy, and being accused of doing that was very hurtful. I didn't even know that Amy was dating anybody. Seems that the guy has left the province and Amy doesn't want to pursue anything legally. She just wants to move on and be happy. They are 6 weeks apart, and were planning on telling me about the matching pregnancies this coming weekend. So in short, Amy and Emily are best friends. I'm going to be an uncle and then a father, and I get Brother of the Year award for not noticing that anything was going on with her. You have no reason to blame yourself. She didn't tell you she had a boyfriend, so how could you know she was being mistreated? Especially since she was spending so much time with Emily. You didn't notice because there was no way you could have known it was happening, and you handled everything exactly as you should have. You stayed calm, talked with them and listened. You didn't blow up at them. You didn't throw accusations. You listened and talked. Good job, and congrats on becoming a dad and an uncle. Also, you might want to hire a PI to hunt down the boyfriend. Even if she doesn't want to press charges, he should definitely be forced to pay child support. I agree that he handled how he talked to them correctly, but he should feel bad for not noticing his sister's apparent mistreatment, especially if they are as close as he said, and especially when his girlfriend noticed before him. And tracking down the guy to pay child support is just another way to bring this awful person back into this poor woman's life, when it seems like she would be better off with the support system she has now, and no guy threatening to take her kid away if she doesn't go back to him.